Hi everybody, today we are going to paint some simple and bold dog portraits. The idea behind today's exercise is to bring color into our minimalist flat compositions. So they are simple, minimalist, and mostly flat, and yet you can make them more vibrant with texture and color. If you're not particularly confident with your portrait skills or painting techniques, you can still add visual interest to your compositions simply through the use of color and texture, even if it's just with basic blocks of color like we're doing here. To begin, let's start with this Whippet here. I love Whippets. They are such good models, aren't they? Every time I look at one, it looks like they are posing. They are so fine and elegant. And that's why whenever I revisit the theme of dogs, there's always a Whippet or an Italian Greyhound. Now, this is essentially a three-color composition, two colors in the background and another for the main subject. And of course, there's the natural color of the paper, which acts as a base for the entire composition. If you're wondering how to make your colors harmonize, the formula is really quite simple. Choose one color and let it appear in small amounts in all other colors in your composition. In this case, the main color here is the raw umber of the paper itself, and every other shade you see contains hints of it, from the creamy whites to the yellowish beige and even the nearly black used for the dog itself. And because the base color appears throughout, the entire composition feels harmonious. There are only three or maybe four colors here, depending on how you look at it. But they're all variations of the same tone, and that's why it works so well. And even if you want to incorporate more colors, let's say greens, blues, or reds, they'll harmonize better if you add just a touch of that base color in them. It's really as simple as that. Now, my original plan for this exercise was to include something in the background, more precisely some botanical elements or florals. But once I saw the dog with that plain, simple background, it already felt complete. So I decided to keep it like that. So personally, I just felt that a simpler background worked better here. But let me know if you'd like us to do some paintings with floral backgrounds in the future, okay? So the same thing happened in our second composition. I thought about adding a lamp, some flowers, maybe a window, a pattern to the armchair, a rug. I wanted to make it very colorful, just to show how we can create basic flat compositions and still make them vibrant and lively. However, keeping it minimal seemed to work best. So these are very simple compositions, quite similar to many we've done before. Just a few colors, but they work well because, once again, they are all part of the same color family. Each of them contains that same burnt amber. So the whole thing feels cohesive. For our third composition, we are going to do things slightly different. We'll paint the background first, and once it's dry, we'll sketch and paint our main subject. It works just as well. And in case I haven't mentioned, I am using acrylics on colored paper. This particular one has no texture. It's a very smooth and matte, and I believe it is 200 GSM, so it's not the thickest paper, but it works nicely with acrylics. Now, for this particular dog, I'm adding a few more details, some color to the ears, the eyes, the nose, and a few shadows. Still very simple and flat overall. And to call it finished, I just used the background colors to cover the pencil lines, and that's it. Our fourth painting isn't quite as flat as the previous ones, but you'll notice the process is very similar. Okay, we cover the main area with a solid block of color, just a single tone. And once that base layer is down, we add a second color, in this case, burnt umber. And then we start blending. There's no need for 5, 6, 10 colors. One extra color is enough. And once again, the reason burnt umber works so well for the shadows here is because it is already part of the base color used in the main subject. So if you try this with oils, that's perfect because you have plenty of time to blend and refine, okay? You can use the same approach with watercolors and gouache too. However, with acrylics, like I'm using here, you need to work quickly because acrylics dry very fast. And the denser the paint, the faster it dries. If I were using oils, I could paint the entire surface of the dog in the base color, then go with shadows and highlights without worrying much about blending time. But with acrylics, once again, I have got to move fast. So I started with the head and completed most of the work there, and only then moved on to the lower part of the body. And only after that, I worked the smaller details. This paper here is a bit heavier. It is 320 GSM, and once again, it is already colored. But I wanted to add more texture. So what do? I paint over it. The yellow tone you see underneath, it still comes through subtly. It serves as an undertone for everything on top, like the dog's coat and even the background. Texture is a simple way to add visual interest, and all of it comes from the brushwork. Once I'm happy with the overall result, I finish with the small touches, especially in the eyes. And remember, no eye is finished without a tiny reflection of light, okay? That's the final touch. Now, for our final composition of the day, it's a bull terrier. I am definitely biased here, but anyway. So, once again, I am following the same process. I block in the main body with one solid color, and then I add a second for the shadows and highlights. You may have noticed that the brush strokes follow the natural direction of the fur. This adds another layer of visual interest. Even though it is technically flat, the direction of the brush strokes creates the illusion of texture. Once the main block of color is done, I add small details. By the way, this is not pure white, okay? This is a mix of white, burnt umber, and blue. Once everything is in place, I go in with the final details. And again, the paper is already colored. And I liked the red, so I didn't change the color. I just wanted to add more texture, so I painted over it with more red to give it depth and interest. And this gives the whole piece more visual appeal. Okay. So these are the results of what we've done today. I hope you've learned something new. And I hope that you've seen how minimalist, flat compositions can also be bold and rich in color. This is just as straightforward as all the other flat compositions we've done. The only real difference is how we're adding vibrancy through thoughtful use of color. As always, keep on practicing and thank you for joining us.